Today in our 2016 Dodge Journey, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with a 4-pole flat trailer connector. So here's what our wiring looks like once we have it installed. It is going to stay on the outside of the vehicle, so it'll be close by our hitch whenever we need it. It's going to provide us with a 4-pole flat trailer connector, so we have all the required lights to safely get down the road, like our tail lights, turn signals, and our brake lights. Now we can use the dust cover to attach it to our safety chain loops, so it'll take up some of the slack and we don't have to worry about it dragging. But if you want more of a permanent solution to mount it, we do have brackets available here at etrailer.com. Our wiring is custom designed, so it's made specifically for our Journey that has LED taillights. We're not going to have to worry about cutting or splicing because it's simply going to plug in behind our taillight with a T connector. And the taillight converter is going to be powered. So we're going to have a power wire that will run directly to our battery, and that's going to help take a lot of the strain off of our electrical system and make sure we don't overload our taillights. Now the maximum amperage on our wiring for our stop and turn signals is going to be 3 amps, and for our taillights it's going to be 6 amps. But now that we've seen what our wiring looks like and gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, we want to open up our rear hatch because we're going to need to remove our taillights. So if we come to that opening right here, we're going to have 2 fasteners that are holding our taillight in place. Just a little push pin fasteners, so you can grab a trim panel tool or a flathead screwdriver. There'll be a little notch. We want to come into the center and pull out the center section of the push pin first. That'll release it. Then we come underneath the outer section and pull the rest of it out. Once we have both push pins removed, we'll take our tail light, and you're going to want to pull straight back because there are some pins that keep it aligned and we don't want those to break. And that'll release it, and we'll find 2 connectors. There's a small gray tab on the large one. We can press it, and that'll disconnect our plug. And then on top, there's a little hook that we need to lift up on and pull away. We can set our taillight aside and do the same thing on the other side. So we can grab our harness now, and we're going to start on the driver's side. So we'll grab the T connector that has the yellow and white wire and the red wire on the other plug as well. Now these are just going to plug in line with our factory plugs. So we'll just find the corresponding ones and we can plug it in. Make sure it locks in, and we can plug in the small one as well. And then when we plug our taillight back in, we'll just plug in the other connectors to the taillight. Now if we follow our wires down, we'll have several more wires attached and our converter box here. We'll focus on our white wire for now. That's going to be our ground wire, and we're going to attach this to a nice flat spot of sheet metal. So we can go right here on this ledge where our taillight's going to sit and still have plenty of room to get it back in place. Take the included self-tapping screw, go through the eyelet, and we'll take a 1/4 inch bit driver and go right into the sheet metal. You want to make sure that that ring terminal doesn't move around, but you also don't want to strip out the screw. We're also going to have this short black wire that's got a stripped end on it. This is going to need to be ran to the battery, so we do have a length of wire that we can attach. They provide us with some butt connectors, but I'm going to be replacing the ones they give you in your kit with some heat shrink butt connectors just to provide a little bit better protection. So we'll slide it over our wire and crimp it in place. Then we can take the length of wire they give us in our kit. We're going to strip back one end, and we'll crimp it into the other end of our butt connector. I'm going to use a heat gun to shrink down my connector But if you're using an open flame like a lighter or a mini torch, you want to be careful not to burn or char the wire or the connector itself. Now we should have 3 sections of wire coming out of our box left. We'll have a green wire, the power wire we just attached, and our 4-pole wire. We're going to want to send all of this down so it can go underneath the car. We're just going to send it in between the body and the bumper here in this large opening. So we'll just start feeding all of our wires down until we can grab them underneath and pull all the slack down. When you send them down, you just want to make sure you leave your converter box out on the outside so we can mount it properly. Now that all the wires are passed down to the bottom, we have a few different options of how we can mount our converter box. We have an eyelet right here that if we can find somewhere to mount it using a zip tie, we can, but they're also going to provide us with some double-sided foam tape so we can stick the box to a nice flat surface. So I'll take my double-sided foam tape, I'll stick it to my converter box, then I can remove the backing, and now I'm actually just going to push my box down in between the bumper and the body here. Just make sure it's going to clear our tail light, and I'm just going to push it against the back of the bumper so it'll sit right here, clearing our tail lights, and be nice and out of the way. So we're going to need to send our green wire over to the passenger side so we can plug in our T-connector. And then our 4-pole wire is going to need to go towards the center of our hitch so it'll be ready whenever we get ready to tow. Whenever you're running your wire, you just want to make sure you stay away from the exhaust and try to follow the path of the hitch here so we don't have to worry about it getting melted or interfering with our spare. I took my green wire and I put it inside the bumper and ran it all the way over to the passenger side. That way we don't have to worry about the muffler or anything else damaging it. Then the green wire just came out on the other end of the bumper beam. Now we need to get it up to the top where our taillights are, so I'm going to use a piece of airline tube that I had laying around. You can use a coat hanger or whatever you have available, but I'm just going to feed it from the bottom, going up, where it's going to come out the top, and then on the other end, I'm going to attach my wire to my airline tube using some electrical tape. That way I can just pull it up top and I don't have to worry about dropping it. We'll pull all the slack up top, then we'll remove the pull wire. And it's just a matter of simply plugging in our connectors. Make sure everything's lined up, and we'll put the fasteners back in place. Now with my 4-pole, I just made sure to put the connector right here on my safety chain loop. We can always tie up the excess later, but we need to run our black wire up to the front of our journey so we can get the 12 volt at our battery. Now again, you just want to make sure that you stay away from heat sources like the exhaust or any other moving parts that may damage the wire. Everybody's going to route it a little bit differently, so I'm going to run the wire and show you how I got it there. So I ran my power wire, I went over my muffler. There's some wiring up there that I zip tied it to keep it high enough so it won't damage it. Ran it back until I got to the rear axle. I went over the rear subframe. Had my wire come down by my fuel tank. Went around. I came underneath this cover following these lines. Came back out. Again, securing it to these lines, making sure it's not going to fall or get loose. Then I have it right here, right at the front subframe. Now we're going to use the same method to get our black wire into the engine compartment using that airline tube. So we'll pull our wire up. And whenever you pull your wire into your engine bay, you want to make sure you get all the slack up because we don't want it to catch on anything when we're driving down the road. And it's not a bad idea to go ahead and anchor it off somewhere up top that we don't have to worry about it sliding back down. Before we hook our power up to our battery, we want to make sure that we put our fuse holder in place. So it's going to come pre-stripped. We'll just take another one of our butt connectors, slide it over our wire, and crimp it in place. We're going to come to the positive post right here. That'll be our power supply. You can go ahead and estimate about how much wire we're going to need to reach. Come to our black wire and cut off the excess. We'll strip the end of the wire and crimp it in the other end of our butt connector. On the other end of our fuse holder, we're going to grab the ring terminal out of our kit and we can crimp it in place. Now to get our ring terminal in place, we'll come to the positive post. We'll remove the nut using a 15mm socket. Slide our ring terminal over and replace the nut. We put our 10-amp fuse in the fuse holder. And now would be a good time to go back and clean up any loose wires and just make everything look nice underneath the hood and underneath the car. The final step of the installation is going to be testing our wires and making sure all the circuits are working properly. So if I turn on my headlights, we can see the taillight functions are working properly, the left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brakes. All we have left to do now is hook up to our trailer and hit the road. That'll finish up your look at the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with 4-pole flat trailer connector on our 2016 Dodge Journey.